Welcome to Wheels, Deals, and Meals, where we talk all things good food, good business, and good cars. And now, here is your host, Arnold Gasita, founder and CEO of Petra Automotive Products. Let's roll.
We're excited to have on today's show Paul Murphy Jr. I've gotten to know Paul Murphy Jr. A lot. Paul and I, throughout the last few years, in many things, in some business transactions, but also, I would say mainly working together in the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And so when I was the chairman, after I left, Paul came on board, and but he's been involved, just like me, with the Houston Hispanic Chamber, and a lot of things in Houston, in the community of Houston. Very well known, very well liked, very well loved. Paul, thanks for being on the show.
Arnold, what a pleasure. Glad we have some time together.
Yeah, thank you very much. So listen, you've been busy.
It's been a busy time and good to be busy, right?
Right. So I want to kind of start it with some fun stuff.
Okay.
What, of all the places you've traveled in the world, what's your favorite?
Oh boy, I would say St. Bart's.
Okay.
I think there's something special about St. Bart's, just the ocean, the beaches, the views.
So are you a beach guy?
I like both. I mean, I like the mountains.
Because there's those mountain people and then there's the beach people,
I like
right?
both. I like both. I spend more time in the mountains, but no, take me to the beach and I can have a lot of fun there. We went with a group of about 50 people to St. Bart's. So,
goodness.
So not only is St. Bart's fun, but to go with a big group of people, and it was fun.
Party away.
There were some Russian oligarchs at St. Bart's when we were there, and there's a bar in town called La Tea, and as you know, many of your listeners would know, it's famous for people dancing on the tables right at the end of the night. And so our group, the next morning, we said, we think the Russian oligarchs were impressed with the Houston crew that was at St. Bart's last night.
Were you guys dancing?
There was some dancing on the table.
Were you dancing?
I was dancing on the table.
That's good, because that's something that people that don't know, you're going to go, what in the world happened? All right, what's your favorite car?
My favorite car is a Bentley Continental GT. It's my dream car. It's the car I'm driving right now. A couple fun things about it. Yesterday morning, I was at Starbucks, and I was getting in the car, and a dad came over to me and said, my son wants to know, is it okay if we take a picture of your car?
Yeah.
And I said, how old is he? He's 4. So the 4-year-olds at Starbucks recognize his car as cool. So it's sleek designed. It's a 2-door. It's W12 650 horsepower engine. 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. So it's luxury. It drives.
It's also power.
Oh, I mean 650.
Yeah, it's power.
And every now and then you need it. You got to get out of the way of something.
In Houston,
yeah,
you need it all the time.
Yeah,
I needed it to get from the airport to here.
Well, the potholes in Houston, it can handle those, reasonably well so far. So I've had fun driving it, and it's my dream car, and I feel fortunate that I've been able to have some lot of success in life.
Part of the show is as we talk about with successful people. Part of that success is to be able to achieve those dreams, right? So that's good for you. I've seen it; it's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
It's beautiful. So well done on that. So Paul, tell us a little bit about you. Where were you born?
Sure, I was born in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and I lived there for 18 years until I went to Mississippi State University.
Why not Ole Miss?
I
only asked you that because my son went to Ole Miss.
Okay.
So
Well, my dad thought that Ole Miss was too much of a party school.
He was right.
Well, I thought later you should really come to Starkville on a weekend. I think it's pretty close. It's pretty close. But Ole Miss, they do claim they've never lost a party, and I think there's some truth to that. But anyway, both are great schools. The business school at State was probably, at that time, I think, a step ahead. So I was a business finance student, and a combination of reasons. Had a lot of friends going to both places. But
yeah.
I had a great 4 years there, and I'm enjoying my time when we get back over there from time to time.
So when you graduated, where'd you go?
Houston, Texas, Amegy Bank of Texas. This is mildly amusing. So Jackson banks, Birmingham banks had offers $13,000, $13,500. Allied Bank of Texas, 18.5. Went to Texas for the big money.
There you go. Well, the right move, right?
Yep.
It was the right move.
It's total.
What was your first position at Allied?
Allied Bank, they had a management training program. It's very similar to one that we have today at Cadence. And you get young people right out of school, expose them to various areas of the bank, kind of match up their interests with the needs of the bank. And it was a dream job for me. I spent 9 years there and loved every minute of it.
So you started as a trainee for management
Training program.
9 years. Where'd you end up? What was your last position at Allied?
My last job there, I was a senior vice president and commercial team leader of a team of commercial lenders right on the west side here in Houston.
And you left there to go where?
To go join Walter Johnson and start Southwest Bank of Texas, which years later became Amegy Bank. So we raised $8 million back in 1990, and we went to a bank that was already existing, recapitalized it, started growing. Make a long story short, went public in '96, sold in 2005, and our original investors were up 36 times their investment over a 16-year period. That's my favorite number of my whole banking career, not to be repeated. Margins were way better back then than they are today, but
Well, I don't want to skip over some of that stuff because I want to get to some of these things that made you successful. So you leave Allied, and you go work at this joint venture or struggling bank. Should we call it struggling bank or?
well, you're on the right vibe there, but I would summarize it this way. So I left and joined a group of investors, and we raised $1 billion to buy distressed banks. The first bank we bought was Cadence Bank. It was not a failed bank, but it had some setbacks. Its peak market cap was $300 million. We bought it for $30 million.
No, but wait, go back a little bit. After Allied, when you went to Amegy,
Correct.
that was a struggling bank as well?
Yes.
Southwest Bank?
Yeah. It was called Northwest Crossing National Bank until we got there. We joked that we changed the direction of the bank. We called it Southwest Bank instead of Northwest Bank. Yeah. But yeah, it had some problems along the way.
And the reason why I'm backing you up to this is I think you have been extremely successful. We're going to talk about all your career, but as I see your bio and as I know you and know a little bit of your history and have been able to work with you in some things, it does look like you have a pretty good track record of getting something that's not working well, putting a team together, and then knocking it out of the park.
I think that's a fair, yeah.
So when you left Allied, young kid, 9 years there,
Yep.
what was it that somebody saw in you, or what was it that you saw to make that jump and say, I'm gonna move away from this 9-year career,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna go into a bank that, or through this investment firm,
Right.
that we're gonna go around and buy banks that are not doing that good.
Yeah.
What did you see in yourself? What did people see in yourself?
Yeah.
How did that happen? What was that thought process?
So Southwest Bank of Texas, I mean, the reason I left to join Southwest Bank of Texas is a guy named Walter Johnson. He was a mentor to me. He was the president of Allied Bank of Texas. We were acquired by First Interstate in '87. And so by '89, '90, I went to him one day and said, I'm thinking about doing something different. He said, I am too. And so, but I want you to join me. So he was the senior guy. I was the 30-year-old, willing to work myself to death to try to turn it into something. And but Walter was the leadership. He was the big name in Houston. He was incredibly energetic and smart and motivated and had contacts like you can't believe. And so the Northwest Crossing National Bank board was an unbelievable board. Johnny Johnson, Beth Morian, I won't go through the whole list, but incredible leaders in the city of Houston. So we had Walter's super talent, great board, small bank, not much going for it, but 20 employees. But yeah, it was a fixer-upper, and we thought that if we came in and worked hard, we could, turn it into something, and we did.
So you followed your mentor.
Yes.
Your mentor saw it in you because he says, yeah, I'm thinking about leaving too, come with me.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you learn? What were some of the first things that you learned before we get to this incredible success later on? So you decide to join your boss.
Yep.
You guys go into this buy this struggling, distressed bank.
Right.
Did you ever have a thought like, maybe I should not have done this?
There was a few moments where, for example, at Amegy Bank of Texas, I had a $175 million loan portfolio. We went to a bank that was $75 million. We had a $2 million legal loan limit. I had $30 million loans. And so I mean, a lot of the people that we banked, we could not handle. And just a quick aside, so a wonderful guy at First Interstate, when I told him I'm leaving, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, "Paul, I hate to tell you, but people are not going to leave the 8th largest bank in the world to come back in the nation to come over and bank with this little neighborhood bank. It's asking a lot." And I said, "Well, I understand that. I'm hearing you, but I tell you what, I think it's all about people. I think people bank with people, not so much the institution." And so several years later, when we had some success, he called me and said, "I remember that conversation.
Yeah.
And you were right."
I think that's right. You and I have had that conversation.
Yeah.
People bank with people. It's a people business. Every business is a people business.
It's all about building relationships with people in any business.
Yeah, every business is that way. People buy from people they like. You build a relationship with them.
Yeah.
They like you, they figure out a way to buy from you. So that's all right. So you move into this bank. The portfolio is a third, or maybe a little bit more than what you had over here.
Single-handedly.
As a commercial banker, a
Right.
piece of a bank.
Right.
So that could be frustrating, right? Because people you're trying to bring over here are already way out of your limit.
Oh, I mean, a lot of them I couldn't even call them. Right.
So what was some of the good stuff that was happening?
Well, again, this Walter Johnson, I mean, hardworking, smart, motivated, and we just felt like we could build something together, and there was a distressed time. I mean, the 80s were rough, so here we are, coming
Especially
out.
in Houston.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There were, banks were being acquired. Responsiveness was at an all-time low. And so we always said, we worked a lot of half days at 7 to 7. And we worked from can to can. And a big part of our job was just to out-hustle the other guys and gals and do a good job for clients. And you repeat that over and over again, it adds up. Yep.
It does. It's a theme in every podcast we do about hustling and outworking the other guy.
There's no secret recipe.
There's no, in any business, right? How do you succeed? Half days, 7 to 7. Because people think, well, bankers kind of, they got banker hours. You hear that thing all the time.
That's right.
And that may be true at a certain point in somebody's career, but what they don't realize is, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it wasn't that way. I'm working 12 hours, 14 hours a day, barely trying to make it and try to get customers in. Because everybody sees kind of like the ending story or the story where you're at today,
right.
But they don't realize that there was some pain to pay. You had a great mentor and you're outworking everybody else. All right, so what happens then? How do you get everything together to develop Amegy?
Well, we started slow. We were small, but we had nice growth, and we hired 75 people and opened 2 new branches and started to get the word out. And another fond memory is, I remember one of our early board meetings and we're going over all the people that we've hired. And one of our key directors, Ernie Cockle, super fantastic guy, turned to me and said, "Really impressive, the resumes of all these people. Do you think we'll ever make any money?" And I was like, because we're stacking the expenses on here pretty, right. And I was like, yeah, I do. And so, and it's a J curve. All right, at first, we're investing in people, opening branches. And so when we kind of turned the corner and started hitting the numbers, I recall that conversation for Ernie, and he gave me a pat on the back and said, "Gold star, we're proud of you." So,
all right.
Yeah, it's cool.
Sometimes you got to pay for the talent, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Sometimes you got to pay for the talent. Okay, so you start hiring the people, start opening the branches. How does Amegy? Because I think Amegy was like a launching point for you, right?
Well, so we were Southwest Bank of Texas for 13 years. And we wanted to grow. We wanted to go to Dallas. We wanted to have a mortgage business, an investment business. We were limited to the 8 counties. There was a Southwest Bank in Dallas, in Fort Worth, actually. There was a Southwest Capital. There was Southwest Mortgage. There was Southwest Securities. So the Southwest name, although I have an emotional connection to it, in terms of is it a good name, really not. So we came to the conclusion that we had to change our name. We tried to go by the Southwest Bank in Fort Worth, and were unsuccessful, got thrown out of the guy's office. So we did a search. Arnold, it's hard. We did 2 years. We had 2 different agencies working, came up with some great names. Already taken. Like, Bank in Nashville has it. Cadence Bank was one of the names that we really liked. Somebody had trademarked it like 6 months earlier. So ultimately, we had to coin a word. We had to, make up a word. Amegy, American Energy, the A Bank. It grows on you. It's kind of catchy, I think. And so we settled on that, and I think it's now is a brand that has a lot of respect and a lot of brand equity in the name today.
Sure. Okay, so you guys decided to change the name, continue the growth. You decided to call it Amegy. How many years were you there?
I was there 20 years total.
Okay. So from year 1 to the end, what would you say? What did you guys do that made Amegy so successful?
Well, it's
and it may be a couple of things, but what did you guys do? I mean, it didn't just happen because hey, woke up one day and it miraculously happened.
Well, a lot of it was, again, following Walter's leadership. I mean, he's an incredible individual. So, I mean, great respect for our team, okay? And, I mean, it's true. Your most important asset are your people, and they go home every night. So, people know that we genuinely respect and appreciate the teller, the back office, the operations team member. It's not all just about the business producers, and, that those are, of course, point guards are important. But you got to have everybody on the team, everybody pulling together. And then a little bit of an old-fashioned Boy Scout mentality around customer service, Somebody, I remember Walter, if the phone rings 3 times, somebody doesn't answer, something's wrong here. We had to answer a phone call about 3 times. So we have training on that, back in the day. These days, you wouldn't do that because it's a little different. They don't call the office and back. But, return all your phone calls every day. But just be responsive, out hustle, and try to think about the future of our clients. Okay, you need your line renewed. We understand that. But what does the next 3 to 5 years look like? What do we need to be in a position to be able to handle for you down the road? Are you acquisitive? And so I think a lot of banks are just like, well, we get the line renewed next.
Yeah.
And we are trying to be more of a.
You think that's still important today?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I think it is in every business.
I do too.
Yeah. You've said something that, again, we continue to hear this in every podcast from every successful person we talk about. The first thing you went to was, let's treat our employees right. Right? From the teller to whoever.
Yep.
Let's treat the employees right. Then customer service.
Yeah.
Right? Not customer service before employee then customer service. And because sometimes people get that backwards. Right? They think that the automatic answer is customer service. Well, you can't have good customer service if you've got a pissed off group of employees.
I heard a saying one time, and I've used it many times, how your team feels is eventually how your customers will feel.
So true.
So if your bankers feel like, we care, we make a mistake, we own it, we will fix it, then, they will take pride in that, and they will know that the bank is seriously committed to doing a good job for customers. And that's what they'll tell their customers because it's the truth. It's the reality of it all.
Yeah.
So I think it starts with letting your team be empowered and motivated and respected and well compensated. One of the most fun parts of the job is seeing somebody come in early career and contribute enormously and add a room onto the house, and kids are going to college, and people are thriving financially. So that's fun to see.
It's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a great feeling. All right, so you guys put this great deal together. You put Amegy, and then did you guys decide to sell it, or somebody came in on it?
It's an interesting process. So for many years, we'd have bankers stop by. You guys we were small, but we were having some success. We had some visibility out there in terms of a target for M&A, and so every time somebody came by, we would say, "Hey, board, so and so came by. Maybe there's price talk, maybe not." And so it was an ongoing evaluation of how are we doing, what does our go-forward plan look like, and what price talk is out there. And finally we got to the point where the price talk was spectacular. And so we decided not to sell the bank, but to talk seriously to some of these interested parties and see what might become of them. And so we got 4.1 times book. Today, the average bank trades for 1.6, 1.7. It was, margins were starting to come down a little bit. Arnold, I wouldn't say we timed it
right
perfectly,
yeah,
but it was
you could have timed
6
it
months
better.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty darn close. And so I would give Walter a lot of credit for being strategic in terms of how you think about it. And so we never really started the bank to sell it. And I think most people think about it. We're not running the business to sell it. We're not running the business to not sell it. We're running the business to do what's in the shareholders' best interest.
That's right.
And so we entertain those ideas. Some management teams, I think, get confused and won't entertain what is my value in an M&A transaction, and they're more focused on their own job security. And we didn't have that problem. You know, we were able to really think like shareholders because we were shareholders. I mean, we had the board wisely incented us significantly with stock. So if the shareholders did well, we were going to do well. And if it meant we had to go find another job one day, we'd go find another job one day.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But you were successful. Somebody would hire. All right, so you guys decide to sell. You got 4.1.
Yep.
Did you stay, or at that point you, Walter, and the kind of like the top management team leaves?
I stayed I had a 3-year contract to stay, and at about the end of year
Did Walter
4,
leave?
he's still there.
He's still there.
Still there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's semi-retired, and he has his hand in a lot of different pies. He's an astute businessman in banking and in other businesses too. And a group approached me at about 4 years after the deal closed and said, now it's 2009, and again, distressed industry. It looks like a lot of banks were going to fail. And we had an unbelievable board of directors, Bill Harrison, Bob Steele, Mark Shapiro. I want to take you through Scott Stewart from KKR. And so we thought we could raise some money. So we did. We raised $1 billion. I used to say our board was a $90 saddle on a $10 horse. It was an extremely capable group of business leaders. And we started very small. Gina, my executive assistant, and I were the first two, and we were non-paid for a while in the fundraise phase, and then we finally got the money raised.
What was y'all's first little office for 2 people?
Paul Barnhart put us up over at Sage Plaza in some space that he was super kind of accommodate us with a promise that if we ever raised some money, we could pay some rent one day.
And did you have, what was the name? Did you already immediately call it Cadence or something else?
It was called Community Bancorp. And I teased the guys. I said, who came up with Community Bancorp? And they said, to be honest with you, we didn't put a lot of thought in it. And I said, it shows. There's only 110 community banks.
Right.
Yeah. So I said, well, we're changing the name.
Plus you get that mentality if it's just a community bank.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not a bad concept. Community banks are important. That resonates, of course, with me. But in terms of differentiating your brand, it's going to be hard to do. So we knew that we would change the name. And I said, well, let's just see what we buy. Whatever the first thing we buy, well, maybe that'll be the name. And lo and behold, as I mentioned, there's Cadence Bank, which was a name I thought was fantastic. And here's the bank, and we were able to make a deal on that. And it was a great way to get started.
So when you buy Cadence Bank in this new little venture that you guys started, how many branches did they have?
Cadence Bank was about $1.6 billion in assets, and Arnold, I'd say they had 62 or 3 branches. Mississippi, Florida, a couple in Georgia, but it's really more a Northeast Mississippi franchise with some Florida presence. It was 126 years old when we bought it. At one time, they had 26 years of consecutive earnings growth. It's a good bank, and then they made some acquisitions, and as I mentioned, the peak market cap was $300 million. We bought it for $30 million, so it was a great way to start.
And then you moved to headquarters here.
Not right away, but we bought a failed bank from the FDIC like immediately within the month. And then we bought Encore Bank here in Houston in 2012. So I would say I was always headquartered here, but the Cadence Bank was technically headquartered in Mississippi until we got Encore, and then we sort of reshuffled it, yeah.
How many branches do they have now?
Oh boy, today 350.
Do you think A little side question here. Do you think branches are important in the future?
Yes. Not as important as they have been in the past, but still small business, individuals. I mean, I go to the bank from time to time. You know, there's things you need in cash, you need something notarized. But in terms of the pictures of payday at the lobbies at the branches from 75 years ago where people are lined up, you know, out to the parking lot, no. I mean, that doesn't happen. And thankfully, I mean, that's a labor intensive,
That's right.
hard way to
Consumes
do
your time.
Correct. Yeah.
So you think branches are important, maybe not as many branches?
Not as many and smaller, and still visibility of branches is still good. I mean, it's a billboard in the community for you, but customers want to come in and talk to a person. You know,
Especially if they're getting a loan. It may not be the check cashing thing,
you're correct.
but a loan, buying a house, a car.
I'm a small business and I've got a new lathe that's coming in 2 months, and I need to talk to my banker about how am I going to finance it. Yeah, they want to sit down and show you your financials and have a common sense conversation.
Build this great bank, Cadence, very well known in Houston. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I mean, I would call it, I think in Houston, at least, again, I don't know if right or wrong, so correct me. But it was always, you know, it was placed in the right areas, and some good businesses, high-end customers liked that bank.
Yeah. Well, we recruited an amazing team, you know, early days. So after Encore came along, we were able to recruit Barry Kelly, and about 16 people came with him. So it's not just about having bricks and mortar. It's back to more important about the people. And probably one of the best things that ever happened to us was Barry coming, his team, Hank Holmes, Katrina King, you know, 2 all-star bankers that were big-time rainmakers in their businesses. Billy Braddock joined us early on. He's just a phenomenal, still a big, huge contributor to the Go Forward team. And it was fun. It was really, you know, a lot of great years. Bill Harrison was the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. He was our chairman. I talked to him, you know, just about a month ago, and he said, you know, Paul, I was just reminiscing. I was thinking back, you know, the culture that you guys created, the execution for customers, the way you treated people. He said, I really enjoyed being part of this. If I could just go a bit further.
For sure.
A board meeting several years ago, at the end, Bill turned to me, he says, hey, Paul, I think this is maybe one of the best board meetings I've ever been to. And I was like, God, Bill, I mean, seriously, we ran on time, you know? And he said, now keep in mind, JP Morgan Chase, 300,000 employees.
Yeah, the monster.
And he said, but you could just feel the camaraderie in the room. So that particular meeting, our mortgage team had been presenting some new products, and the compliance folks were on board with it. And so with then 1,500 employees, yeah, you would think it would have a far different feel than a major, you know, corporation and someone with, you know, his enormous capabilities could run. But it was just one of the highlights of my career to say, Bill Harrison, you know, I think this is one of the best board meetings I've ever been to. I really feel there's something different about the team that you have assembled here. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah, and you should be, you know, and I can see that happening, you know, Paul, from the time that I've known you, your demeanor, I can see that happening. You and I have been involved in things where some tough decisions had to be made, and it was always great to have that conversation where we kind of always erred in grace and mercy. It was good. It was really good.
Can I tell you another favorite story that kind of ties into a question you asked earlier? And the question I'm thinking of was, you know, were there ever a moment where you thought it wasn't the right idea or it's not working? So Scott Stewart was the kind of thought leader behind Cadence Bancorp being founded. He went to Bill Harrison and Mark Shapiro and Bob Steele, and he recruited this unbelievable board. And so after we closed on the Encore acquisition in July of 2012, we have all these pro formas, and we go 6 months and maybe 9 months, and we're not hitting the pro formas. And so at a board meeting, Scott, who, again, he's the KKR guy, right, you know, and I teased him, I said, you know, before I met you, Scott, I could tell you already I wasn't going to like the KKR guy. So you really changed my mind. But so Scott says, hey, you know, we're not hitting our numbers. we got to pull some levers. Something's got to change. We got investors out here. You know, where are we? I'm not seeing the returns developing like I need to see. And I said, hey, Scott, there's nobody that understands we're not hitting the numbers like me. You know, I first thing in the morning, last thing at night, I am all over the numbers and hitting the numbers and the importance of that. And I got the right team. We're making some progress. Yeah, margins are less than we budgeted, and you know we're admittedly, but and I think the mistake I said, but you know, trust me, I'm committed. We're going to hit them. Just you know, and I shouldn't have said you're going to have to be patient, because Scott said, well, if you've perceived that I'm a patient person, I'm paraphrasing now, but if you perceive I'm a patient person, you've misread me. You know, that's just not my DNA. Yeah. And he's like, and we got it. You know, so he's back on, and so Bob Steele, one of the world's most brilliant people, says, hey, Scott, you can't bake a cake in half the time at twice the temperature. And for whatever reason, that satisfied Scott, you know, more than my, you know, spiel. Yeah. And so for the next quarter, we're not hitting the numbers, but we're closer. And the quarter after that, we're hitting the numbers. And so it was just a great board and a great culture and a great collaborative effort. And Scott would even say sometimes, okay, I'll play my role. You know, we had to hit these numbers. Yeah. So we would laugh about it, but he became a great friend, and I'm now an investor in his fund, SageView, the fund that they did after the Cadence Bank. So it's nice when, you know, people you work with, you can gain such respect and trust and confidence in them that you want to invest with them.
That's right. Yeah, that's right, because it should be that way, especially when you're running something so delicate as a bank and financials. Mm-hmm. So you founded Cadence with the team, and you had it how long before you sold it?
Okay, so we started in 2010, and we sold and we merged with BancorpSouth in 21. So 11 years. We went public in 17. So we bought the 3 banks in 2009. In 2019 we bought State Bank, and then we merged with BancorpSouth in 12.
And then you stayed on how long after that?
I stayed for 18 months. Yep.
You miss it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's part. I'm not completely out of it. You know, I'm still helping out. I'm a consultant, and I'm still, you know, happy to be part of it, and you know, see and talk to our bankers on a regular basis. You know, in life, one door closes, another door opens.
It does. And it's a great chapter in your life. You know, and things like that happen. But I know it was your baby. Yeah. Right. And so, you know, there's always that emotional right decision, but that emotional tie. So I left back in April. For the first several months, I was really busy. You know, not so much with bank things, but a variety of things. And so now, as I look to kind of the fall, I really, for the first time, have some daylight in my calendar that I can do more things that I want to do. That you want to do. All right, and now you've opened up a business with your family.
That is our intent. We've founded a company called Murphy Interest. So it's me and my 2 sons and my daughter Catherine, and we're going to hopefully do a variety of things. My son Trey, in particular, has a partnership with Andrew Colton and Blake Hogan, and they're looking for companies to buy that you know, we can hopefully grow and nourish. And we'll see. My son Robert is a bit more of the real estate business and more his interest, and my daughter Catherine has had an operations job at a company where she had about 100 people. She's kind of more the HR kind of inclination of the family. So we don't know what we might buy or when we might buy it or who's going to play what role, but we're all kind of, you know, pulling together. And yeah.
But it's great because you get to work with the kids.
I feel very fortunate that they're all here in town. We're super close. We spend a lot of time together, and so hopefully we wind up in a business or two together.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. What else? What do you want to do for fun now? So that's your new business venture. You're still a consultant here. People always call you. I know I do for questions and comments and, you know, what advice you can give. But what's fun? As you look at the fall that you said, as you look at fall, what's some fun stuff that you're going to do? More beach, more mountain?
I want to play more golf. I have come to understand that there's no amount of practice that can make up for lack of talent. Okay, so I'm a low average golfer, but I'm going to practice more, and even with that handicap that I'm aware that I have to deal with, I'm going to improve my game some, I think, and travel. I mean, I really would like to get out and do more parts of the world that I haven't been to. And so as a public company CEO, I have 4 weeks of vacation a year, but you don't take that.
Right.
You're
always on.
Yeah, I mean, there's just hard to do. So I don't know, maybe teach someday somewhere at some level. I don't know what.
Well, you deserve it. You deserve it, Paul. You've worked hard, long, had a phenomenal career, still have a great career coming up. I'm sure when we talk next time, this will be blowing up as well, just like everything else that you've done. You've got a good track record now in it, so it's good to hear us here in the beginning of your new venture, and then in a few years see how that has grown and what's happened with it, especially working with the kids. People starting out in the business today, actually whether it's banking or any business, a young person today getting into the workforce, what's 2 pieces of advice that you would give them?
I'd first tell a quick story. 1977, a guy that I went to church with recruited me to go to Effingham, Illinois to learn how to sell books door to door. It's the Southwestern Book Company. We started in Nashville. We did a week of sales school, and I'll never forget being out in the parking lot at the Howard Johnson, and the sales manager, we're demoing the book, and he's checking our demos. And just quickly, so knock on the door 3 times, take 2 steps back. Mrs. Jones opens the door. I say, I'm Paul Murphy. I sell Southwestern books. I'm talking to all the people in the neighborhood who have preschool and school-age children. You are Billy and Susie's mom, right? Because you did due diligence at the house next door. And she would say, yes. May I come in, break eye contact, reach down, and get your book back. Arnold, the model is to knock on 80 doors, to do 30 demos, to sell 2 books. Okay, banking is way better than that. All right, and so what I want young people to understand is you've got to put a lot of effort out there. You got to knock on 80 doors. You got to do 30 demos to sell 2 books. I was able to sell about 2.5 books, which percentage-wise that was meaningful, and that helped me get my freshman year at Mississippi State. I had a little walking around money to work with. So it's about effort and attitude. It's about coming early, stay late, read the footnotes, and there's as we were saying earlier in the conversation, there's no secret formula. Treat people right. I remember early in my career just kind of being a student of some of the senior bankers, and I would say, remember one guy in particular, just great with clients, small businesses, large, sophisticated investment bankers, small businesses. He could relate just beautifully to everyone. And I knew he had some skills that I didn't have, but then other guys. So I try to say, what are his skills that I can mimic? He was the gifted guy. He could walk in and fight everybody. I'm not that guy, but I can get to know people. I'm comfortable, spending time and asking people about their lives.
Yeah, do that with your personality.
Yeah. I mean, to the best of my skill set. Yeah, or maybe there's some skill sets that he's got, I'm going to learn. Or she has that I can maybe do half as well as she can, but it's a really important skill set, so I'm going to try to take it. So be a student of people. I mean, watch them in action and see what they're good at and where do they footfall. I mean, we all do that, several times a week, and so try to just think about the folks you're around and how much you can learn from them, and then aim high, work hard.
I love it.
Okay.
That's great for everything. And then you're very involved in the community. Still going to be involved in the community?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That's meaningful part of my life.
Is that part of your I got to give back?
That's certainly part of it. I mean, it's intellectual curiosity. It's I want to give back. I've been very fortunate in my life. I'll confess, as a young banker, part of it was to get out there and get meet people, and I had some discipline about it. I remember I was asked one time to go on one of the nonprofit boards that don't, the opera, I'll tell you, I mean, I don't go to the opera, I don't really know anything about opera, but the people you can meet, and I was like, I don't think that's the right reason. You know, I want to be in something I'm interested in, you know?
Right.
And so I think if you're interested in it, yeah, I want to, especially as a young banker, I want to meet people in the community that maybe I could do business with one day.
Right.
So, confess, I'm a capitalist, in the good way. But I think it has to be something that, really means something to you as well. And so I've been fortunate to have a lot of those.
Well, good. Well, brother, keep doing what you're doing.
Okay.
I appreciate you being on.
You're nice to have me. All right. Enjoy them.
Thank you for listening to Wheels, Deals, and Meals, your main source for all things good and fun, business, food, and cars. If you like this episode, make sure to rate us and subscribe. If you would like to be a guest on our show, please leave a message at the link below. Till next time, happy eating.